Welcome back to the Snow Family Racing Garage. Today, we have some new parts. I've got a brand new ReVolt regulator from RM Stator. Now, RM Stator makes electronics for ATVs, side-by-sides, motorcycles, snowmobiles, you name it. If you need it electrical, they've got it. Now, RM Stator sent this to me to put on this 98 Suzuki Quad Runner. So let's get this thing on and see how it does. We're gonna do some before and after testing. Voltage, how stable is it at idle? How stable is it across cruise? Temperature. Temperature is a big killer of voltage regulators on, four-wheelers and side-by-sides and those things. This one is supposed to offer more stable voltage, better current capacity, and more stable temperature. So between all those things, this should be a good upgrade to what's on there. Now, what's on there is actually an RM Stator voltage regulator, but we'll get into that later. What's in the box? Let's talk about that real quick. You've got the voltage regulator in a beautiful extruded aluminum anodized black. You've got the adapter for whatever machine you're working on. This is supposed to take it from the 2 plug on this guy, black and gray, to the 98 Suzuki Quad Runner plug. We'll verify that in just a minute. It also comes with, new keychain, which I have one over here dangling off. Oh, where did it go? Right there. On the keys already, because I like RM Stator stuff. You've got, stickers, some dielectric grease, general good stuff. So let's get the seat off. Let's look at the voltage of this guy at idle, and then let's go drive it around and see the before and after temperature and those kinds of things. Now, the next thing that we're concerned about is the temperature of the voltage regulator. I have a non-contact thermometer right here. Now, I'm going to set up a test course, basically just drive it around the block once. We'll measure the temperature after we're done, swap the voltage regulator, and then do the same testing again. Make sure the voltage is steady at idle. I really am going to have a hard time showing you the voltage as we're going down the road because the battery's into the seat. My meter doesn't have leads that work that way. But we'll be able to go test the temperature, show the voltage, we'll rev it up just like we did, and see how it does. So let's go for a test drive. So here we are with the seat off. This is a brand new battery. I just installed it yesterday, as a matter of fact. So this is brand new. We're running 12.81 volts as it sits with it not running. So let's start it up and just see what the voltage does. It jumps right up to 14.5 volts like it's supposed to. Now, if we rev it up, let's see what it does. So with RPM, the voltage drops. That's interesting. Let's go for a drive. The voltage regulator is right there. Let's just grab a before temperature. About 46 degrees. And according to the thermometer over there on the wall, which is right there, we're running about 47 degrees, so this is about ambient temperature. So fresh off that run, let's see what we got. 61.7 degrees. Keep in mind, we are barely above freezing out there. I think if it got to 35 today, it would be warm. But that 61 degrees after that rip, let's start taking this apart and swapping off pieces and see what we get. Believe it or not, I've changed the voltage regulator on this machine before. There will be a video in the comments that details the entire charging and ignition system on this thing, but that'll be in the description. So I had to revert back to my notes. We take the gas tank plastic off, we take the seat off. There's a couple of screws straight down under the battery. We take those free and the plastic can flex forward and up out of the way a little bit because really I'm not excited about trying to get my hands in there to get that voltage regulator free, but let's start taking pieces off. And just like that, with the 2x something in place, I got access to the voltage regulator. There's 2 Allen wrench socket head cap screws. I believe they're a 5mm head. I'll double check, get that guy zipped off. There is the connection right there that will be undone, and we'll keep going. So here's the 2 voltage regulators side by side. This is the original replacement. This is an RM Stator part, and to be fair, this thing has been solid its entire life. But this is the new ReVolt. It represents muchly improved voltage regulation, temperature control, that kind of stuff. Anyways, so you can see there is a bit of difference in size. I mean, there is a fair bit of beef there. Now, the good news is that the bolt holes line up. So I don't have to do any real fabricating to put this guy in place. It's just a little physically taller, which I'm pretty sure will be okay. Now, let's talk connectors, because I know everyone wants to make sure that it plugs in correctly. This is the factory 98 Suzuki quad runner side. This is the brand new ReVolt adapter that takes these 2 plugs and turns them into one, which is supposed to work like it's supposed to. Also, item of note, the really nice fabric overlay on the wiring is just really sweet. RM Stator does a great job. Their attention to detail, making the wires a high quality piece. They really do a good job with all of their components, not just these new ReVolt regulators. All of the RM Stator stuff is top notch. So let's go hold this up in place and see what we're up against. So the new ReVolt regulator bolts up exactly in place of the old one. I was able to reuse the 5mm headed socket head cap screws. I don't know what pitch that is off the top of my head. And now all that's left is just plug it back into the wiring harness, and it fits exactly as it's supposed to. It's a little bit more tall. It's taller vertically, but you know something? We got room for it. So no big deal. Let's get it plugged in, and wiring's in there, 1 zip tie with the tail trimmed because, you know, I'm not a monster. Anyways, let's start putting this thing back together. So I've got the new voltage regulator hooked up. I've got the meter on it. As you can see, we're running 12.8 volts right now in its non-running state. Now, to be fair, I did prove that this does work. So let me show you what happens when we hit the key. It comes right up. Now, right now, I've got a little bit of the battery's weak. I've been doing some other electrical stuff with it, but it comes up to 14.3 volts, give or take 0.02 of a volt. That's not much, but there's 14.3. But watch the voltage as I rev it up. It's dead flat across the entire RPM range, whereas the original regulators, the voltage would tend to dip with RPM. This one solves the problems and gives you completely flat voltage across the entire RPM range. So now we've got to go test drive it and prove the temperature claims. All right, first up is the before temperature test. 46 degrees on the infrared thermometer. Let's go drive it. Now, in the interest of complete transparency, the first time I put this in and hit the key, it didn't work. The problem was on my side. The connector where those 2 plug in, my original connector, had a break in the plastic and one of the spade lugs had pushed backwards. I had to pull things apart further plastic-wise to find that things didn't quite look right once I got in there. So now that I was in there and pushed the connection back together, it works exactly as it's supposed to. So keep that in mind, especially on the older machines. Having a broken connector is not uncommon. So this is important, before you go blaming any new parts, make sure you check your side first and make sure all the connections are plugged in. That's just one of the most simple, basic things you can do to ensure that it's going to work correctly. So let's go test drive this. So here we are after test run. My eyes are watering because it's so darn cold. And we are graced with 53 degrees, which is, in fact, cooler than what we had. My eyes are still watering from that ride. It's a bit cool. If you've ever ridden out there in 40 degrees or less, you know what I'm talking about. So with being 56 degrees, that is a bit cooler than what we had originally. And also keep in mind, that's kind of hidden underneath where it's going to pick up a lot of heat from the engine. So, that's really a good improvement, all things considered. Now, I'm very pleased that the voltage is working. Fighting that connections issue was one of those things that's like, oh, boy, I hope this works. But, I'm glad that it's working. The voltage regulator keeps the voltage the way it should be. I'll make sure there's a link in the description where you can take a look at these guys. And now this voltage regulator does cover a lot of years. RM Stator says this is new tech, and they've got this thing adapted to, street bikes. I've got a lot of friends with GSXRs, 1600s, whatever's, pick your persuasion, but they all fit. This goes for a lot of different machines. This regulator can be adapted to just about anything you have. So if you don't have an application, you can always reach out to me. I can get you in touch with RM Stator. Reach out to RM Stator direct, and then you can get one of these yourself. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.